Chumash and Rashi, we are Parshas Baloischa, the final portion of the book of Vayikra, Leviticus. It is chapter 26 of Vayikra, Leviticus, verse number 10, the third reading. Okay. The Chaltam Yashan, Neishan, and you will eat very old produce, Yashan Mipnei Chadash, and you will clear out the old, Mipnei Chadash Teitziu, because of the new. Let's see Rashi. Excuse me 1 second. I think now I see things differently. Okay, Rashi, V'chaltam Yashan Noishan, and you're going to eat the very old produce. Hapedus you mishtamrin. In other words, you're going to get a blessing. Right? We're talking here about the blessing that the Jewish people are going to get because of their commitment and observance to Hashem's ways, Torah mitzvahs. So you're going to get a blessing in the food that you eat, which means that the produce will be mishtamrin, will be preserved, the toivim, this yasha, and it will be good that it becomes old and ripe, aged. Now, just to remind you the sequence over here from last week's Torah portion, right, that we spoke about the sabbatical year, right? And the sabbatical year means your entire land remains fallow. So what you might ask, what are you going to eat? Well, God will command his blessing, and that in the 6th year you're going to get greater produce. That itself is a miracle, because if any of the land was ever depleted and not as bearing produces as best, would be the 6th year. But God is going to command his blessing. In the 6th year, you're going to have plenty of produce that will last you throughout the 7th and also the beginning of the 8th year, right? So you'll have for 6th, 7th, and 8th. So this means that produce now is going to be old. So he says, no, you're going to eat it and it's going to be fresh. So not only that you will have abundance, but the quality will also be good, that it'll be preserved. And you will clear out the old before the new. So the threshing floor, rather, will be full of new grain. It'll be full of new grain, which would be decayed if it was left there, right? And therefore it needs to be stored. So it needs to be stored. But the storehouses will be Meleus Chodash, will be stored with abundance of new grain. Now you're going to have so much, right? Right, because the new grain, if you leave it on the threshing floor, it's going to go bad. It needs to be stored. but you're going to be full of storage with the old grain, which would mean you need to empty out. So you have to remove it, the old, in order to put the new in and to keep it elsewhere. You're going to be so so full of produce. And I will place my dwelling. I'll place my dwelling amongst you, and my spirit will not reject you. Rashi, this is in reference to the Holy Temple, right? My dwelling. And my spirit will not reject you. So, my spirit will not be upset with you. Disgusted translates over here. So the word Geila is an expression of purging that which is absorbed in it. Hagalas Kaling. To give that as an example here, about that's when you need to kosher your vessels that are not kosher because inside of it it's purged. Yeah, you need to purge what's inside of the material, right? Of the pot, a metal pot, for example, that was used in not kosher. So you have to put it in boiling hot water, for example, to purge it, right? So that's the idea over here. Davar abuloya b'davar, k'mayki shamni gal magin k'bayrim, like balam shicha. So, so it says that so they had a shield that they used to used to put on their shields a protective ointment on the leather shields, cooked fat, right? And therefore, when arrows were or spears were shot, it would sort of like slide off it. And they should not leave me. I love Amakas Chates or so that way it didn't pierce into the material. Kind of like I guess it was I don't know, slippery exactly, but kind of like slide off. That's how I'm understanding it. And the point being, he just wants to bring out the idea that it's reject. It's the term means rejection. So on the shield, it rejected the 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 um, the arrow, right? It's just bringing an example. And I will walk among you. God says, and I will be your God. And you will be my nation. So God says that I will walk with you in Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden. As one of you, and you won't be trembled by me. You might think that you won't fear me. I will be still your God. In other words, okay, interesting then, right? Because the term, so I guess this is speaking in this verse. The previous verse was, and the Beis Hamikdash, God will be, his presence will be there. Then it'll be after our lifetime, when after 120, that it'll be in Gan Eden. That's how I'm understanding it. That God will be with us. Ani Hashem Elokeichem, I am Hashem your God. The one that took you, I took you out of the land of Egypt, from being slaves, and I broke maites. It says pegs over here. Pegs of your yoke, actually. Yeah. No, ulchem is yoke. Broke the pegs of your yoke, but and I led you upright. Now you had the yoke of servitude, of slavery, and I broke that. Okay. Rashi in 13. Ani Hashem, Elokechem, I'm Hashem, your God, right? The one who took you out of Egypt. Kedayani, shetaminu bin. It's fitting that you should believe in me. Shani that I'm able to do all of this. Right? Because look, I took you out of Egypt. Otherwise, he's saying things of the future. So he's saying, you can believe it because you have a past with me already. I took you out of Egypt. And I did great wonders and miracles for you. Laitais, pegs. Kimin, Yosef Bishnei Rashi Ha'el, Hamna'akvim, Habaisera. So there was a pole, right, that put over the animal's neck with reins on it, right, and it threaded two holes in there at the end of the bars, so you could put the reins in there. So Maites is the pegs that are inserted into the two holes at the end of the yokes. So that way they tighten the reins inside the holes, right, to that the reins should remain tight and therefore be able to, use the reins in controlling the animal. Shore, so, so the pegs were in there to tighten the reins so they wouldn't loosen up and therefore lose control over the animal. Became a skupa. It's an upright stature. The God took us out. However, if you will not listen to and you won't do all of these mitzvahs, these commandments. Okay, let's see Rashi. What are you not going to listen to? Oh, listen to this. It's interesting. You're not going to toil in the study of Torah. Right? So Rashi says, though, that's the Dash Midrash Chacham. So you might think that the verse is speaking about the God is for warning us about fulfillment of mitzvahs, right? Because after all, it says if you're not going to perform all of these commandments, it does sound that way, right? So Rashi says, Kishu Oimer Sasu, that you won't do. So that's referring to the fulfillment of mitzvahs, because mitzvahs are about action, doing, right? Putting on tefillin, giving tzedakah, lighting Shabbos candles, right? Those are action-oriented mitzvahs. So in the verse it says, well, if you won't listen to me, and you won't perform, right? How do you keep my mitzvahs? So that right. Ma ani mekayim lo yisishmu. Aha. So if you will not, okay, so here's the verse, right? The second part of the verse is if you won't do all of the mitzvahs, right? Fine. So what's the first thing? You won't listen to me. You know, for poetic language, you would say, okay, you won't listen to me and you won't do, listen and do, right? She says, no, it's not poetic license here that God is taking. He's being very precise. The latter half of the verse is speaking about the act of doing mitzvahs. What does that mean? So Rashi says, it means to toil in the study of Torah. Toil in the study of Torah means, like to really, to be present, be focused, learn, which, of course, all of you are like that. And I'm sure there's times that where, our mind drifts because we're have worries about other things. So it takes away from the amelim batera of toiling in Torah. Toiling is, you got to be really, and toiling also, like you're understanding, you're asking questions, you know, you're digging deeper, and so on. Right. So that's it's Leah is the main limitator. So you have to what does it mean? Why what do you mean if you won't listen to me? If you won't listen, why you have to say to me? I mean, wouldn't that be implied? What's the specific um the specific emphasis? Ainly ella tamakis or whenever limred boy. I only know of an individual who recognizes the creator, the master, and purposefully um, rebels against him. By Nimrod, like Nimrod did, Gibor Tzai Lifnei Hashem, that he was a um, that he was a powerful hunter before God. That's a literal translation. Yeah, which means that he recognized God and intentionally rebelled against him. And likewise from the people of stone, Sodom and Gomorrah, right? They were destroyed. That they were evil and sinning to God very much so. These are only those who intentionally do. Right. So it's since it says that you're not listening to me, mean, in other words, you know me, but you're not listening to me. So that's speaking about Nimrod or the people of stone that knew God, the ways of God, and purposefully rebelled against him. As opposed, that's why it says the word Lee here, as opposed to, you didn't listen. You know why you didn't listen to the words of Torah and make it a part of, excuse me, oh boy, my apologies. Because you didn't know me, so then, that's why you didn't listen to me. But the verse is saying you didn't listen to me because you knew me and didn't listen. Right? So that's Nimrod. So that's a very specific case. Okay. Loisasu, do not do. So what's the continuation? If you're not going to listen, you're not going to learn, rather, then you're not going to do. Now you have two transgressions, right? Not learning Torah and not fulfilling the commandments properly. And if my statutes you despise, and my ordinances you will be disgusted with, right? Reject. Nafshechem, your soul will reject. Reveal to the Aziz when it's society, that you will not perform my commandments, right? And therefore, you're going to break my covenant. Oh la la. So this means you're going to despise my statutes, because first you despise others who perform the commandments. Yeah, I'm not certain what the proof is over here, that it means others rather than you. My ordinances you reject. This refers to hating of the sages. Because they're the ones who are instituting the law and the ordinances. Without the assays, here means that you're preventing others from fulfilling commandments. So it sounds like over here, taking it to the next level, it's not just you, but because of the previous one was you rebelled. Here, taking you further, not only you rebel, but you're also hating others who are who perform mitzvahs, right? And you even prevent others from doing mitzvahs. As called mitzvah, so I crave for shloitzivism. Any of my commandments, it means you deny the God even commanded them. That's what he said. Mitzvahs. Right, that's why it says my commandments. In other words, you're rejecting the fact that they're my commandments that God commanded. Well, God wrote the Torah and told us to keep Shabbos. Come on. It's humanly written. What's God got to do with humanity? What does he care? As long as we're good to each other, that's all that matters. So, right, rejecting that it comes from God. And you break my covenant. This refers to denying the main things. So what is it you're denying? It doesn't say over here, but the omnipotence of God and his existence. So the verse is telling us here 7 sins that a person is going to be involved in. And each one will bring about the other. You didn't learn. You didn't do mitzvahs. And you despise others who do the mitzvahs. Saying is and you hate even the sages who teach us what we should do. Yeah. So hating the sages, preventing others, and then you deny the mitzvahs, right? That they're the authenticity of the mitzvahs. And then the final thing will be they deny God's omnipotence. it's interesting. It's not that you deny God. You deny that God, you know, like, what does he care, right? What is what does he care about? I do a mitzvah, don't do a mitzvah, or that God is in control. Denying that too. That's in omnipotence of God. Okay. Okay. All right. Not a good start. So I too will do the same to you. Nifkadati aleichem b'Allah. And I will, it says order upon you. Okay. Order upon you b'Allah. It's like a shock. Ashachefes. Consumption. Kadachas. Fever. Mechalas einayim. Medivus nefesh. Um, the closing of the eyes, I guess, sort of like hopelessness, right? Medivus nefesh, uh, a depressed soul, zeratim larik, and you will sow in vain. Yeah, no, uzeratim, and you will sow larik zerach, and your sowing will be in vain. And your enemies will consume you. Ooh, not getting nice here. I will order this upon you. Hashachafes, it's consumption, translates over here. Chelium mishachnetis abasar means it's a disease that consumes the flesh. Unpolish melas. In Old French, it means blisters. Zufa. So a sad appearance on the face due to the skin that's sagging and swelling. Kadachas. So this in the element makes the body feverish, heating it up. So it's interesting that, okay, bring over here that it's hopeless and depression. So the eyes are looking, anticipating, having hope, and then boom, you know, um, you it's ends any sight, any that should be in sight, that there should be any healing, that should be eased the healing. Essentially, in the end, that it won't even heal. And that's going to bring then to depression. וכל תאווה שאין בה ותחלס ממשכה קרויה כלא עיניים. So any desire that is not realized and that there's still a yearning for something, that's called kiloyin nine. Literally means like, inai means eyes, and kiloyin means destruction. Destruction of the eyes means because with your eyes you anticipate, you have hope, right? You have and here you're gonna destroy all eyes, meaning all hope and anticipation that you have for something good. And you will sow in vain. Tizru, you will sow, but it won't grow. And if it does take anything growth, no. Yeah. Okay. And you will sow in vain. Your enemies will eat your produce. Second, a second. All right. Um, I actually have to go right now, and I'm continue with Tanya. I have to stop this moment. Okay. To be
Thank you.
continued. This is the Teichacha, the rebuke, as you can see. All right.
Thank you, Rabbi.
See you.